We love talking about agents on this show because this is the future. Folks, if you are looking at a 1, 2, 3 year time horizon for your work, if you're involved in any strategic planning, you have to start planning for agents. Do we know when they're going to get here? No, but everybody's using the term, and there's a new player in this, and it is coming out of the brain of David Singleton, who has recently stepped down as the CTO of Stripe, which is an amazing company, which he helped really make into something special. He was there for, I think, something like 7 years. But he's doing something around agents that are going to handle, I think it's like financial transactions. And holy cow, if that can be automated, this is going to be a multi-billion dollar, I'm talking tens of billions of dollar business. Bart, can he pull it off? So Jaeden, you were telling me about this earlier. Tell me what you were seeing on this.
Yeah, I think this is a really interesting company I would not discount. And what I think is cool here is like people keep saying, oh, look, we just reached kind of the pinnacle of these AI companies raising a ton of money. We have all these big players. They have a lot of money. There's not really room in the market. People should just start, I don't know, like making smaller plays. And we keep getting proved wrong with $500 million seed rounds, right? Like that's pretty crazy. I'll talk a little bit about this team because I do think it's unique and there's a reason why they're able to kind of command this sort of valuation on a seed round. Like, let's be honest, an unlaunched product with a $500 million seed round, that's like phenomenal, right? And 56 million cash, that's awesome. So, yeah, this is an interesting company. I'll dive into a little bit. But one thing that I do think is interesting here is kind of who's backing it. So like you mentioned, it's the former CTO. The CEO is David Singleton, who is the former CTO for I think like 6 or 7 years of Stripe. I mean, you look at this guy's LinkedIn account and it is very impressive. And he kind of talked about this. This is what he said. He said, before Android existed, we could all see the promise of mobile, but as a developer, it was just too hard to build anything on mobile. We're seeing the same thing again. We can see the promise of AI, but as a developer, it's just really hard to build anything good. And when he says good, specifically, he's talking about agents, building things that aren't just like a prompt, but that actually go and execute well a task for you. And so I think I think 2025 is going to be kind of the year of AI and video taking off like crazy, and also AI and agents taking off like crazy. And you can see, I think my prediction is going to be pretty sound because we can see essentially on the horizon from the biggest players in AI, you have OpenAI, who's got to release Sora soon. And they also have said that the next step in their kind of path to AGI is agents. That's the next thing that they're focused on accomplishing. So I think we're going to see that. And I think that David is going to be building a tool that's very, very useful for this company. And it's like, essentially, it's an operating system for AI models. It's a brand new operating system that can help run all of these agents, which I think they are unique enough. It is complex enough to essentially warrant a new operating system. And that's kind of the bet, and the big question is like, do you need a new operating system to run this thing? One example I'll give, and I'll kick this over to you, Connor, for your thoughts on this. But I was recently looking at kind of Anthropic's new computer use.
Oh, computer use, yeah.
Yeah, that they have, where it essentially takes control of your computer. You give it a bunch of prompts and a bunch of tasks, and it's pretty much an agent that takes control of your computer. It clicks, it plans, it does stuff. Very, very useful. I think everyone's going to be using this. It's currently in beta for the API for developers to embed and use with stuff. So it's not even like so much a consumer tool right now, but developers are working with it. And I'm sitting there thinking about this on my drive to the studio today. I was like, this is such a cool tool, but there's going to be a point where like, yeah, you have a prompt that you can like run, but do you really want to just like put a prompt in and then just sit there and watch your computer just like execute like a task? Maybe this task takes 10 or 20 minutes. What are you going to do? Just sit there and watch it? Like, I'm like, something isn't really clicking. Like, it's cool, but people aren't really probably going to want it to just take over the computer, because the whole idea with AI is that it can free up your time so you can do other things. So you'd essentially want it to be working on a virtual private machine, is what I think it will probably come to, where it's like you can put your prompt in and it's running and doing stuff over there, but you could still use your computer and it's not being taken over, because that's kind of what the current version does. So I do think this idea of having like a new operating system, a new place for these agents to be running and to work and interface with them is going to be needed, because people at the end of the day aren't going to want to like cripple their main computer that they're using. I talked to a developer about this over the weekend, and they were like, this is ridiculous. No one's going to make it like completely take over their computer. You're going to have like all these virtual private servers running and like blah, blah, blah. I'm like, okay, for you, a developer, yes. But for me, a non-developer, I don't know how to do that. I'm just going to make it take over my computer. And I'm going to be annoyed. So I do think that there needs to be tools built to allow non-developers and regular people to essentially have agents not running and just taking over their devices.
Yeah, no, I think it's funny. I hadn't thought of that. You're right. Sort of just like watching computers, especially if it's going down the wrong path. You're like, you don't want to interrupt it, but you have to interrupt it. It's actually a super good point about how we're going to be interacting with these things, because everybody's calling everything an agent. It's a little bit frustrating, right? Salesforce has all these agents and Copilot has all these agents and everybody has all these agents. But what is an agent? An agent really is something, technically speaking, that's going to take a task and go off and complete that task. So other things are helpers and things like that, but it really bends us back into the question of how are people going to be using this. So again, if you are starting to plan, 1 year out, 2 years out, I would not think about these AI agents as taking over. When you think about what Jensen Huang said over at NVIDIA, he wants to have a company that has 100 million agents working with it, right? They don't have 100 million employees, obviously. So it's not like that. These are things that take tasks. But also to Jaden's point here, which I really like, these things are supposed to work with you, right? They're supposed to be like really co-pilots along with you. So I'm really curious to sort of see who cracks that. And I think Microsoft, Jaden, you and I talked on the day of Ignite to the CMO over there at Microsoft, talking about what is happening and how they're seeing agents and things like that. And some really cool little things like live translation and things like that. Very, very cool. So I'm really curious to see how those start to play in and whether people start to adopt them. But then just coming back here to this new product in Stripe, it's one of these things that when we start to see valuations of $500 million, okay, maybe, but then I worry about what about the steamrolling effect, right? I think that at the end of 2023, we just saw all of these companies getting steamrolled by OpenAI, by Google, by Anthropic, everything else. Everybody was getting steamrolled. $50 million companies were getting steamrolled. Like it was just like they didn't even notice them. And I'm starting to think, well, okay, this is, geared toward financial analysts, all that kind of stuff. But as an agent really does live in the user interface space. It has to be easy to use. If it's easy to use, then great. I think Perplexity is keeping its head above water because it really beat everybody and everybody took so long to catch up to Perplexity. It was totally mind-boggling that Google took so long to catch up with this and everything else. I think Google will ultimately probably surpass it. But so the steamroller problem is really the question. So Gene, your thought on this, like, can a company like this actually survive when OpenAI and everybody else has a stronger foundation model and is so general purpose that it can also probably create an agent for financial, like, how do these companies survive?
Yeah, so the thing that I think that they're going to have to do is not create their own foundational models, but create like a software layer to run these agents. I mean, I don't know if that's exactly what the plan is, but I think it's going to have to be more focused on the operating system and integrating with Anthropic and OpenAI because those models are already so big and so good. But yeah, I think they have a good thing going for them. They're building a pretty solid tool, but it's definitely very, very early days for this company. I mean, if you go and look at their website, it's like very, very basic. Everything is, and maybe that's by design. It's a cool style or whatever. One thing that I will say is kind of like I mentioned, they said that they're going to be a cloud-based operating system. They're going to work across devices with generative AI, and they're going to view a personalized user interface. This is exactly what I think needs to happen. You need to be able to access this on your phone, access this on your computer. It's a cloud-based. You can go log into all of your agents that are running, check in on them, give them instructions, watch what they're doing, look at their, audit their reasoning and their tasks that they accomplished. And so I think that I think they're going to be able to pull off something really impressive that is, quite useful. They said It's a super difficult problem. And it's a really big idea. I agree with that. But I believe this is one of their investors said, if there was one team to do it, the team that built Android and Stripe from the ground up would be the team. So I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt. They'll be able to pull something off, but it's definitely going to be a big project for them to accomplish.
Huge. And I agree with you with sort of coming from the business school aspect. Everything's about team, right? But we've also seen some great teams that haven't been able to pull it off. And these early monies on the Ilya Sutskever's and things like that. They're saying, hey, we're not going to have anything for another 2 years, even though Sutskever is one of the top people at OpenAI. Is this actually going to work? I just think there's going to be so much money lost. This may not be one of those, but it's $56 million seed round, $500 million valuation. Just this seems part of the bubble to me. Again, when we say bubble, we don't mean that it's not practical and really, really useful for people. It is, but think about the internet. The internet, again, cheesegraters.com sort of like, raised $1 million or whatever. It's the internet is still useful for you and for me and for all of us. But when we are putting so much money into these, I just have my doubts. People don't want to get left behind. I get it, but I don't know. I have my doubts about it. I think that agents are going to take longer than we think, but I guess we're going to find out together.
100%. Listen, I wanted to tell you, if you have ever thought of starting a podcast to grow your business or grow your brand, today is Cyber Monday, and I have a podcast course. Conor and I have talked about this in the past. That has been probably the most beneficial thing for me starting a podcast to grow my businesses, get the word out. It's helped me a ton in my professional career. So if you've ever wanted to start a podcast, I have a 50% off discount for Cyber Monday week. You can go to the link in the description and use the coupon code, all caps, one word, Black Friday. I'll also put that in the link there so you can check it out. And I would love to see what podcast you create. If you get the course and you create an incredible podcast, tag me on LinkedIn. Let me know what you built. I'd be super excited to see it. And make sure to leave us a review here if you enjoyed the episode. Thanks so much for tuning in, and we will catch you next time.